Now let us discuss one third example also. The third example we can take that of the third example. The third example we can take of that of the potassium and hydrogen pump in guard cells. So while discussing transpiration, you know that this is the most accepted theory, that is for potassium and hydrogen exchange theory, most accepted theory. So what happens? From these are the, suppose the guard cells. Now from the guard cells, hydrogen will come out and potassium will be in. And when potassium will be in, then some amount of chlorine will also move inside to maintain the balance. But when potassium ions will enter into the guard cells, it will increase the concentration of the guard cells. There will be end osmosis and it will lead to the opening of stomata. So this is also one active process. And it will give a fourth example, that is a proton pump. Proton pump. Now this proton pump operates both in mitochondria and chloroplast during electron transport system. It operates both in chloroplast and mitochondria. So during the electron transport system, in case of a mitochondria, that is during oxidative phosphorylation, or chloroplast when there is a chemiosmotic theory, in both cases active that is due to energy difference, due to difference in the potential gradient. That is that takes place due to active process where metabolic energy is utilized. So these are the different examples of this active process: sodium potassium pump, calcium pump which takes place in RBC and muscle cells, then potassium hydrogen pump, and the proton pump. These are about the primary active transport. Now what is secondary active transport? This secondary active transport where metabolic energy is not directly used, but it is accompanied with some coupled reactions. So how it takes place, let us see. So this secondary active transport where metabolic energy not directly used, only it is accompanied with that is coupled reaction. Now this is again of two types. It may be symport or contransport, and the other is antiport or countertransport. Now, in these two cases, what happens? Now, let us draw a diagram. Suppose this is one cell membrane, and these are the phospholipids. These are the phospholipids. Now suppose one molecule of ATP is spent. So suppose here what is happening? Now here this is the molecule of here ATPase enzyme is there, and there is expenditure of energy. So when this the expenditure of energy is taking place, what is happening? How this symport and antiport or contransport and countertransport are taking place, you see. Now when that is sodium ions will come inside, when two sodium ions will come inside, along with it, the fructose, glucose, and amino acids, they will come with it. While in the same, when sodium is coming inside, now you see the calcium ions and hydrogen ions, they will go outside. Now this let us write, this is the cytosol, that means the inside where pH is 7, and this is the outside where the pH is 5. pH is 5. Now see, this is the cell membrane. So you see, this is the cell membrane, this is the inner side of the cell, that is the outside of the cell. Now this is the expenditure of energy. When energy is utilized and the sodium comes inside, along with sodium, the sugars, fructose, glucose, and also amino acids, they are coming inside. Now this is known as symport or contransport. This is known as symport or contransport. That means along with the sodium, these two are coming. Now on just reverse side, when sodium comes in, calcium and hydrogen, they are moving outside. That is antiport or countertransport. That is antiport or countertransport. Now you see, that means whenever sodium is coming inside, along with it the sugars are coming. This is the reason when somebody suffers from diarrhea, dysentery, and the body is dehydrated, the person is given with the saline. Now this saline contains what? This saline contains sodium and glucose. Sodium and glucose. In what proportion? In the proportion of 3:2. That means the saline which is given to a patient suffering from dehydration, to him in the saline what contains? It contains sodium and glucose in the ratio of 3:2. That means see, when sodium goes inside, then only the sugars will go inside. Because the person is suffering from dehydration. That is why sodium along with sugars both are given simultaneously. This is the important point of this symport, and when they come inside, they go outside. That is why the pH inside and outside also differs. So this is about this symport and antiport. Symport means along with the sodium concentration substances which move. Example like the glucose, amino acids, and fructose. And antiport means just in the reverse direction. When sodium goes inside the cell, they will go outside like calcium and hydrogen. So this is about this primary, secondary transport. Then the next is bulk transport. So there are certain substances which are so big in size that they cannot move into the cell through their pores, because the size of the pores present in the cell membrane is only up to 15 angstrom. But the substances which are quite big, how they will move? Suppose this is a cell and one substance very big size is present. How that will enter inside? That is why the movement is known as bulk transport, where heavy substances will move. So the third one is bulk transport. Bulk transport. Now the bulk transport is again of two types. It may be, now we can tell that is it is endocytosis, and the other is exocytosis. Now endo means it will move into the cell, inside cell. Exo means from the cell it will go outside. Now this endocytosis again of two types. It may be pinocytosis and phagocytosis. Phagocytosis. So let us discuss one by one. Now in endocytosis it is again pinocytosis and phagocytosis. Suppose this is one cell. This is one cell. And some liquid substances will enter inside, which are present in the vesicle. So how it will enter? When it will approach the cell, it will form one vesicle-like structure. It will form one vesicle-like structure like this, to which it will enter, and then it will be closed. Now that means that will be inside. So this is usually known as pinosome. This is known as pinosome. From this pinocytosis, it is known as pinosome. And by this method, usually the viruses move into the cell. Viruses, they move into the cell. Now, since the liquid substances move inside by means of this, that is the pinocytosis, it is also known as cell drinking. Cell drinking. Whereas in case of phagocytosis, what happens? In case of phagocytosis, certain solid substances, these are solid substance. So when the solid substance approaches the cell, in the same manner, the cell membrane will form one vesicle-like structure. It will form one vesicle-like structure to which it will enter, and this will be known as phagosome. In this case it is pinosome, here in this case it is phagosome. So when this solid will enter inside, then it will be closed. Now it is inside. Now this, if this is a food material, it will lead to heterophagy, digestion. And most of the pathogens, they enter into the cell by means of these phagosomes, and they can be easily destroyed by this process. The pathogens, different types of bacteria, they can be destroyed by this process. And the digestion of food material takes place. Since solid substance enter into the cell, that is why this phagocytosis is known as cell eating. That means cell drinking, cell eating. Pinocytosis and phagocytosis. Now if we will discuss about the exocytosis, it is just the reverse process. That means inside the cell there are some waste substances. These waste substances, how they will go in, outside. That means the substances which are present in the waste. So suppose this substance is not required for the cell, it has to move outside. So how it will move? It will move just by the reverse endocytosis, which we will call exocytosis. That means here it will be enclosed by one vesicle-like structure, then it will come outside. So all the waste materials, they are removed by this process, that is exocytosis. But here another important thing is there. Sometimes inside the cell there are certain important, suppose one hormone is there, or any essential substance is there. Any essential substance, hormone or anything is present in cell. If that will be removed outside by this process, then there is a separate name for it, that is known as amniocytosis. Amniocytosis. And amniocytosis is known as cell vomiting. What happens when a person vomits? When one person vomits, certain essential substances from the body are removed. That is why if there is more vomiting, it will also lead to dehydration. And we have to give again saline for it. So, in the same way, when from the cell certain essential substances, hormones or any other essential substance will be removed by this exocytosis, there is a specific name known as amniocytosis, cell vomiting. So cell eating, cell drinking and cell vomiting, these are also very important. So we have discussed the different methods of transport in cell membrane. that is passive transport, active transport, bulk transport. And in active transport, there are so many important things like that is the primary transport, secondary transport, with several examples and their importance. This is very important from examination point of view. So I hope now you have a very clear understanding about the transport across the cell membrane. Wish you a very bright future. God bless you.